Hi, this is Andreas with Technically Speaking for Source Allies. Today we're going to talk about relationships and big projects. I would like to talk today about safety and communication and relationships and how to make a huge project successful. I guess I have a little background that I want to provide. I was on a project just recently, and it involved two teams. It involved communication, which I think is very important, but it also involved technical expertise and multiple months of project management and planning. It involved bringing a lot of people together and creating something that a customer actually wants. All of the good bits of a big project. And we were successful, but I don't think we were successful for the same reasons that generally things are successful. So if you have this important multi-month project, what is going to determine your success? What determines whether it's a complete flop and terribly truant and never actually gets where it needs to be versus on time and on budget? Is it experience and expertise? Is it having the right frameworks and language and all this cool technical tooling, developer experience stuff? Is it your leadership? Is it that management is on top of the planning and you have all the things you need to be successful? Or is it just about people, about like passion and grit and bringing the right people with the right, go get you attitude to get something done? No. It's none of those things. I don't think any of those is the thing that makes you successful. The thing that makes you successful is communication. Once you have more than about 6 people in a room working on the same project for 8 hours a day, communication will take up most of your time. As you get up to 10 or 12 people, having a good avenue of communication, being able to talk about what you care about, being able to express what you're concerned about, being able to bring up issues early is the most important thing to the success of a project. So I want to talk about how we did our communication and what worked for us, and hopefully convince you that communication is the most important thing to the success of a large multiple team project. Let's go through a little questionnaire. Have you ever? I want you to actually raise your hand if this has ever applied to you. Have you ever had a conversation that involved talking to somebody at great depths and at great length about a subject that you cared about, only to find out a few minutes in that you're not actually talking about the same thing? Have you ever gotten to the point where you thought you were on the same page, but you were so far off that you weren't even touching each other at all? You were passing in the night, totally speaking a different language, the jargon wasn't synced up. That's definitely happened to me. And I can tell you that if that happens to your team, happens to your project, you won't be able to deliver. You can't deliver if you can't communicate. Have you ever wavered when thinking about what to provide? You have some information. You could give it to somebody in an email or wait till the next meeting, or maybe you need to direct message the other team, or perhaps just the other team's lead, or maybe you need to give it to your manager, and your manager will drop it down into the other team's manager, and it'll get that way through the hierarchy. Or maybe you just need to compose the right email or the right blog post, or maybe you need a website just to communicate about this, or perhaps an engine like Slack or Teams or something. There's a lot of options for communication. When you have something that's important but not critical, it's not an outage, it's just something they might want to know, you don't know how to deliver it, and you waver, you wait. That hesitation can be disastrous for a big project. Oh, what about bad news? When things go really wrong, when you discover that something that should take a day is actually going to take a month, how do you deliver that news? Do you give it directly? Do you conceal it? Do you wait until you have all of the details so that you can write up a nice report and a post-mortem about what went wrong? That type of hiding or obfuscating knowledge until it's necessary or until you have no choice but to give it, also disastrous to a big project. And last but not least, raise your hand if you have an API or an app or, maybe just some component somewhere that you cannot change because you have no idea who you're going to break. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who uses it. You don't know how they use it. You just hope that it keeps working. If you're in this paralysis where you can't change your API, boy, you can't be successful in a fast-moving project. It's just not possible. So if you've raised your hand to any of these questions, if any of these have happened to you, I'm going to say that you have room for improvement. So what do you do? I think you need a hootenanny. Yes, that's right, a hootenanny. You should get together with this other team and you should have an informal, recurring meeting between technologists. This isn't a status update. This isn't a TPS report that you have to align. This isn't bringing people together to do ice-breaking routines. This is a regular meeting where you can post things that you will eventually talk about, but you don't need to talk about it right now. So you don't waver. You know what the lines of communications are. This is a place where you get closer to your fellow technologists so that when you have bad news, you know exactly how to present it in a way that it makes sense. This is a place where you can talk about upcoming issues and problems and centralize and normalize on what you want to communicate and how you want to communicate it. So you're never ships passing in the night. You need a hootenanny to build a relationship, and a relationship builds safety, and safety allows you to communicate. So some do's and don'ts. You should not fill your calendar with meetings. Only use this hootenanny approach, and call it whatever you want. Hootenanny is what we called ours, but you could have a shindig or a powwow. You could have a jubilee. You can have a fiesta, whatever works for you, but name it something silly so everyone knows that this is an informal meeting where you can talk about whatever is going on this shared project that your teams are concerned about. So when you have your hootenanny, don't fill your calendar with all of the hootenannies for all of the projects you're at. You just want to keep the lines of communication open. So if you have one thing that your team is mostly working on, one thing that's most important, that's what you put on your calendar. You don't need to have every relationship between cross teams become a hootenanny. Don't discuss TPS reports. In essence, don't worry about swim lanes or paradigm shifts. Don't talk corporate language about planning or about updates. Instead, leave it open for technologists to build relationships and to talk about the project. They're going to know what to talk about. Let us talk, and we're going to build crucial relationships that you can rely on when you have important news to give. Don't cancel your hootenanny too early. If you've got this meeting that happens every Friday or every other Friday, if you cancel it a week early because you don't think there's going to be anything to talk about, no longer can your team depend on it as a place to park your issues until it's time to talk about them. So you can always reclaim part of your day if you need to. If you show up at the hootenanny and nobody has anything to talk about, great. No big deal. You can cancel. Finally, don't shame, don't mock, don't undermine, ignore, don't get engaged in politics. You want this to be a safe space for anybody on either team to talk about whatever they don't know, to talk about whatever they need to communicate. It is a safe space, and you should announce that when you set it up. You should announce that at the beginning of each of your hootenannies, or whatever you want to call it. But it should be clear that this is a safe space to communicate what's important and to open those lines of communication so that you can build a relationship, so that when you really, really need it, when you need your project to go smoothly and you need to depend on that relationship, you have it. And it's there for you. So the goal here is prompt, honest, understood communication. Be clear with that goal. Set up your jubilee or your fiesta, and make sure the lines of communication are open when it's time for a big project. This has been Andreas with Technically Speaking with Source Allies. Do you have a topic you want to see covered? Comment down below. Otherwise, check out sourceallies.com to learn more about us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.